important topic, which is mental health. And we're looking at it from a perspective of, how we can use it to make us effective people, at the home, at the workplace, and, everywhere else in our lives. So I just want to welcome you once again to the Empowerment Summit, which is an initiative of the Success Waymarks Foundation, which is founded and pioneered by Dr. Grace Oluwadebi. So what Sussex Waymarks, what they do, so it's really an NGO, and it's predominantly it was founded in Nigeria. And what they do is they provide resources and kind of access for young females who are wanting to, get into STEP. So that's the sciences, the technology, engineering and mathematics fields. So they provide access and resources for, young females from disadvantaged backgrounds, and just females in general, who are interested in that field. So just defying all odds, that it's predominantly a male field. So that's what they're doing. And of course, I'll hand over to Dr. Grace, who can tell you a bit more about the program, why we're here today, what you can hope to get out of it, and of course, what Sussex Waymarks do as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So the way that the program is going to work is we're going to have the speakers, and then we'll listen to some testimonials, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So please start thinking of any questions you might have, or whilst the speakers are, speaking, please, just get your questions together so we can have a really wonderful time. We can exchange ideas and hopefully go away with something, which is the end goal of this event. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Grace now. So.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Mary, for the introduction.
Okay, sorry, Dr. Grace, just to confirm, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good, great, fantastic.
All right. Then do we see my screen? I'm trying to share just a few slides.
Yes, we can see. We can see your screen, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I want to welcome everyone on board on behalf of trustee of Success Waymarks Foundation. It's my honor to welcome everyone to this event of Empowerment Summit on mental health. I say good morning or good afternoon or evening to everyone, depending on where you're joining from. So I want to say a special welcome to our speakers today, Buki Uka from UK, Joy Oz from Canada, and Dr. Kwemi Adesina also joining from Nigeria. So our moderator is going to introduce them more as we continue in the program. I also welcome our moderator, also Mary Adesulora, and also my two friends who will be sharing their practical experience, as the moderator just said. So I want to welcome all participants, people already on call, and those that will be joining us later on. I say thank you to everyone for joining us today. So just brief about Success Waymarks, like the moderator have said, this webinar is organized by Success Waymarks Foundation and is a non-governmental organization whose vision is to educate and empower women and girls, especially in the field of STEM, by mentoring and providing training towards their development in attaining a leadership position. So, and how do we go about this vision? One of the main aim is, one of the way we go about it is what we're having today, by organizing workshops, seminars, and skill acquisition programs for women and young people. Things that will help them in their academic pursuit, in their career. We're also providing mentorship to girls and younger females, as she rightly said. We also give guidance on how to secure international scholarships and grants. That we have just, we had a program in that line, not quite a long time. So, and also we hope to provide scholarships in the nearest future to indigent girls in the field of science and technology. So, and today we're considering the topic, managing your mental health, which is key to performance. This is important and a unique topic, as we all know. And then it was suggested by one of our stakeholders, who is also a friend to the organization. She suggested it. I also reasoned alongside her why it's really important, because if we are not mentally balanced, then our performance will be damaged, at stake. We will not be able to do much. So then I was trying to check about the mental health, and according to WHO, World Health Organization, we can get some facts about this topic, that around 1 in 9 people in settings affected by conflict have a moderate or severe mental disorder. What does that mean? Is like, you maybe people from broken home, people who are having issues with a neighbor or a family member, they may end up having a mental disorder if the conflict persists. And almost 800,000 people die by suicide. We all know that one of the extreme end of mental disorder is suicide. So, and one person dies from suicide every 40 seconds. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in individual age 15 to 29 years. So we can see that it's a very critical issue to look into. Then, like I said, that it affects productivity. According to WHO, the global economy loses about $1 trillion per year in productivity due to depression and anxiety. So we can see that this is a lot of, this is a great topic indeed to consider, to learn from. And our resource people are all here today. They are experienced professionals that have years of experience in this field. They are here to answer our questions and also to pass some information across to us. So I want every one of us to stay connected and get your pen and jotter, because you're going to learn something. And I'm sure after the meeting or the program today, you'll be glad you attended. So stay connected and happy listening. So I yield the floor to Mary to continue with the program. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Grace. That was a fantastic intro to the program. So hopefully we're all ready to get into action. So just to keep things running, I will introduce our first speaker, who is Buki Yuka. I hope I've pronounced that right. Buki Yuka is a registered mental health nurse working with the NHS here in the UK. So she has experience in the field. So she'll be sharing a few things with us today. And just to kind of give you a bit more information about Buki and why you should listen to her today. So aside from being a registered mental health nurse, she's also a managing director of a few property investments. So her property investment is called Rebunk Property Solutions Limited. And what they do is they offer advice and, they kind of provide some sort of consultancy for those who are, interested in properties and who are wanting advice on mortgages, etc. I'm sure she'll touch a bit more on that. Aside from that as well, Buki Yuka is also a member of a charity organization called the Christian Women of Influence. And they are based in 7 countries, and the goal is to just reach women who are Christian and who are doing wonderful things for the kingdom. So I'll give the floor now to Buki Yuka. So over to you, Buki Yuka.
Thank you. My name is Buki Yuka, and like we have said, we're going to be speaking about mental health and how it affects us as students or as workers in general. Now, mental illness or mental health disorder is an illness that affects the way people think, the way people feel, the way people behave or interact with one another. There are many types of mental illnesses or health disorders, and they all have different signs and symptoms. Our mental health includes our emotional, our psychological, social well-being. It affects the way we think, it affects the way we feel, it affects the way we act. It also helps determine how we handle our stressful situations, the way we relate to others and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of our life, from our childhood through adolescence and up to adulthood. Now, many factors contribute to mental health problems, and the factors that affect mental health problems can be divided into biological factors. And when we're talking about biological factors, we're talking about our genes, you know, how we came into the world through our parents. And it also, the biological factor might be due to our brain chemistry. Life experiences such as trauma or abuse that we go through can also affect our mental health, or also when we have a family history of mental health problems in the family. We notice when we go to our doctors or when we go to our GP, they always want to know about our family history, whether there's anybody that's suffering from whatever ailments we might be suffering from. So sometimes we can see that the mental health issues are hereditary. Our physical and mental health are also linked. Find that people who have long-time physical health conditions, such as diabetes, arthritis, asthma, they also are more likely to experience mental ill health, such as depression, anxiety, because they're not able to do the things that other people they do. And we find out that some long-term conditions can't be cured, they can only be managed. And this will come with a risk of social isolation. So the social isolation will also lead to low self-esteem, it will lead to stigma, it will lead to discrimination. This can easily give way to a mental health condition. So we see people who have long-standing, maybe diabetes, who have asthma, who have physical trauma that's happened to their physical bodies, that they're not able to move out and about. We find that these people end up, you know, getting depressed, getting anxious about what's going to happen next in their illnesses, and as a result, it tends to be to become a mental issue in their life as well. So among the Black community, there's also a stigma attached to mental health. Many Black people don't want to believe that mental health is anything, you know, like near what they want to be going through. They think they're exempt completely from mental health. And this means that people are comfortable to even talk about it. You know, they don't want to express their feelings. They don't want to they don't want to discuss, you know, like those things that they are going through. And you know, this mental health problems, it affects the way we think, it affects the way we feel, it affects the way we behave. And we have the mental health problems that affect us, maybe, you know, like for example, if it's back in Africa, we belong to different tribes, we belong to different things, different age grades. And here in the UK, we or in America or Canada, we find that you know, we belong to different communities. So the Black community is part of the community, but also in other parts of Africa, you can find that we have different tribes in different countries. And, you know, these people, some people think that they're more superior to one another. And, you know, this can affect us. It might have a negative effect. We might, you know, like not be able to express ourselves in the way that we ought to. Poverty levels also can have a knock-on effect. You know, poorer education of education we're exposed to, it makes us not to come out, not to be able to express ourselves. And also this leads us to not having the employment opportunities that can come our way. So all these have a knock-on effect on our mental health, even in the Black community. Now, there are a lot of mental health problems, but common ones are the depression, anxiety, and panic attack, and things like that. We see that mental health can affect our lives in the way that we continue. We see stress is a feeling of being overwhelmed, unable to cope with the mental or emotional pressure. And stress is our own body response to, these pressures. Many different situations in life, it can cause stress. We call it the bucket syndrome, where we have different things filling up our buckets. We have pressures from different aspects of our life. It might be our working life, it might be our school life, it might be our schoolwork, it might be family pressures, it might be life pressures, like, it might be problems with our siblings, it might be problems with our work colleagues. All these things, can lead to stressful situations in which we find ourselves. And, when we find these things in our life, it's very important for us to, to find help for these situations that we go to. And the type of help that we need is that we need to talk about our feelings. We need to find somebody that we can speak to, who can, understand what we're going through, because not everybody understands our life or what we're going through. We need to have regular exercise where we can be able to, go about doing things, that we enjoy. And when we're talking of exercise, I don't mean heavy exercise. It might just be walking along the way. Like someone like me, I walk on flat surfaces, but I can walk for long distance. Some people might just enjoy climbing up, like hills and, going mountain climbing. There's so many type of exercise we can do. And the good thing about being Black and being Afro-Caribbean is also we have dancing. Dancing is a good exercise. It helps us to, we listen to music, we enjoy ourselves, and we can just dance in our rooms. That's enough exercise that we can have daily. So these are things that can help us, to build our self-esteem. We also need to eat well, because many of us, due to our jobs, many of us, due to what we do, we find that we don't take right diet. Some of us just binge eat and, not eating the right quality food. This also affects, the way we look at our mental health. And some people, they also resort to recreational drugs and to sort of combat their mental health problems. So we see people taking to alcohol, taking to street drugs, and these are some factors that can even lead to what we call the drug-induced psychosis. Now, when we talk of drug-induced psychosis, we're talking about, not everybody can handle the alcohol when they actually drink or they take these drugs, and they become mentally unwell just as a result of these recreational drugs that they have taken. And, somebody might take one bottle of maybe beer or one bottle of wine, and it doesn't do anything to them. And whereas someone else will take, even 10 bottles, and it doesn't affect them. So this can also happen, and people dabble into things that they don't know their chemistry, like I said earlier. And we need to keep in touch with our friends. We need to have friends. We need to make friends, because communication, when we're talking to people, it gives us, we find people that share the same things that we like. We find the same hobbies. There's many hobbies that people have along the way, where we can deal with these hobbies, and we can go together to do things. Some people like football, some people like netball, some people like handball. Those are some of the things that you can find. Some people like visiting new places. Some people can do things like photography. All those things are things that can distract our minds from the things that affect our mental health. And we see sometimes we need to take a break. Now, when I say take a break, it's like a slight holiday. We need to move out of, the area we are in. And that's why in things that have happened in the recent, maybe just in the recent months, in the recent years. A lot of us are aware of what's going on with the COVID-19. A lot of people were stuck indoors. They weren't able to move out. And, you know, as a result of this, they were not able to take those breaks, and, you know, it affected people's mental health. And we have a lot of people coming through the doors who, you know, like, they've not been able to go out. They've not been able to go to work. People have lost their jobs. People have lost, you know, like, money, lost their businesses. All those type of things have contributed to factors where people have ended up having mental health problems. So we're all different. It's much healthier to accept that we're unique. We're all born uniquely. We all have different things, you know, like, that can help us along our journey in life. And, you know, we're our brother's keeper. We're supposed to help people. We're supposed to reach out to people who are in need. We reach out to people who, you know, can help us along our journey, because as we help people, we see people that are, you know, like, in need. We help them to get to a point of their life where, you know, we've already arrived, we've gone through. We can always help people with the little. It doesn't necessarily mean monetary help. It just means, you know, interacting with people, talking with people about our experience, sharing our experience, sharing things that we've gone through. And along the line, we can help people along doing all those things that we have done in the past. And there's so many risk factors, you know, when we're in stressful situations, things like financial problems, you know, those are, we've lost a loved one. Those are things that can trigger our mental health. We also have people who've gone through traumatic experiences. We've had young people who've been raped, who've been molested. All those things can impact on our mental health. And we see that, you know, childhood abuse is very rampant, and especially in the Black community, we find that a lot of this is not discussed, or even if it is discussed, it's like quieting down, it's pushed under the carpet, and people are not allowed to express. And even if they express, sometimes people are not believed of what they go to. And also, like I said before, we have hereditary, where people can inherit it even from parents. We have some mental illnesses that come down from, you know, like, the grandfather, it goes down to the mother, and then it comes down to the child, and it's like a continuous cycle. And it's like, see that everyone in the family, some of them don't even escape this cycle. And, you know, like, they tell you stories, oh, it happened to my grandmother, it happened to my mother, and then it's now happening to them. So these are so many risk factors. And, you know, these are some of the things that we find people going through. And this is mental health. It is a real thing that is out there. And I hope I've been able to summarize it in my short time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. That was a fantastic, lovely intro to the various sessions that we'll be having today. Hopefully, people can give you a virtual clap. I'm giving you my virtual clap on Zoom. Thank you very much, Buki. So we will move on swiftly to the next speaker. So our next speaker is Dr. Okweyemi Adesina, and she will be speaking to us on the topic, Sane or Insane? Mental health is a necessity. I'm just going to read a little bit about Dr. Okweyemi. So Dr. Okweyemi is an educator and also a mental health advocate. She's very passionate about you know, these two topics. She is a lecturer in the fields of hematology and also a blood transfusion scientist with more than 19 years of lab experiences. She is a part of, you know, various certified bodies, including the International Technologists in Hematology, the American Society for Clinical Pathology, and also she's a fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants and a member of the Medical Laboratory. She is a certified management consultant and also very passionate about counseling. She has various skills, including teaching managing higher education programs, advising and overseeing research. She's also a mentor and very open to providing mentorship for people with, very with professional and academic goals. I could go on and on and on, but I hope that as she, begins to talk about this topic, you'll be engaged and go away with something. So over to you, Dr. Opeyemi Adesina. Such an honor to have you in our midst today. So over to you. Is Dr. Opeyemi there?
You're muted, Dr.
Yeah, you're muted. If you just unmute, then we can hear you. Still muted. Yeah, still muted. Doctor, you're muted. Okay, she's unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, over to you now. Thank you.
Inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everywhere in the world. The topic we've been talking about is a very important topic, and it determines our life expectancy. This afternoon, from our own side here in Africa, I want to say that every one of us is insane at some point in time. Every one of, even this morning, I'm sure that I had some degree of insanity. And even right now that I couldn't have access to mute myself. So that is the extent of how this topic is so interesting. So sanity or insanity, mental health is a necessity. Even when you see that you feel you are sane, I want to put it to you that at some point you are insane. I want to take it from my own background as an African woman. If you see a madman on the street in Africa, the madman will tell you, look at her, she's insane. And at the same time, you also look at the mad woman or madman, and you tell the mad woman that look at him or her. He or she is insane, meaning that a mad person does not really know whether he's mad or same thing, if you are not mad, you are not sure that you are actually not mad. So that is why we need to take our mental so much about mental health. I wouldn't want us to waste much time. As I said on this slide, mental health is just as eat every day, you sleep, you go to work. Same thing, we need to be very careful with our mental health. It's very important because it starts from the brain. And you believe that the brain determines what your body will bring forth. So that's why your brain has to be monitored. It's an intentional thing. I see sanity as something that you do intentionally. I want to say that personally, for the past almost 5 weeks now, I've been having issue, even with this topic, sanity. I've been off work because of challenges in my health. And if I'm not very careful, I wouldn't be able to come here this afternoon. But I have to break off and say, no, I have to be here. So you are responsible for your health, especially your sanity. Now, what is sanity? Sanity means soundness. It means you need to be rational in your thinking. A person is said to be sane if they are rational. And sanity involves wholeness, as I said, it involves calmness. Whereas insanity employs narrowness and brokenness. Of course, we will know that at some point in our life, we've been broken. At and at some point in our life, we've been calm. So the two need to work, that you need to be healthy for yourself to function well. Now, the ability to think and behave in a normal manner is what we call early state of mind. However, many of us are saying that we're not crazy, but we are actually crazy in some part of our day-to-day activity. Now, when you look at this image, we see reducing stress, lift self-esteem, improve mood, lower risk of depression. It's like a tree of life. So for you to live intentionally, you must be able to balance your self-esteem with your mood, with your depression and anxiety, just like the former speaker has already spoken. Now,
I think we're having some network issues. If we can just be patient with Dr. Prayami as she delivers her section.
Maybe the level of psychological well-being or absence of mental illness. Or can you hear me now, please?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah, we lost you for quite some time.
Oh, so sorry. We're trying to troubleshoot it.
Okay.
All right. So at what point can you chat me up?
Yes.
At what point did you log?
So after you explained that, we all have elements of insanity in our day-to-day life. And yeah, then you spoke about image as well. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's to move forward because of our time. I see this slide is talking about necessity. I agree with you all agree with me that there's no way you can survive without food and water. Same thing, we need to know that we are responsible for our sanity. So someone that is affecting you, someone that you feel that is also giving you issues, you should know that that person is going to leave, or even if you are not available, the person will be happy. So you need to strike a balance. So it's a necessity. So the state or fact of being required, you need to know, you need to intentionally live for yourself. So your mental health, your sanity is a necessity. Now, at what point do you really know that you are sane? You are sane when you can successfully perform your mental function, resulting in productive activity, fulfilling relationship with others, and providing the ability to adapt to change and cope with adversity. Anytime you see that you're not really getting what you really want, as far as part of your career, your relationship with your family, or your attitude at work, then you know that you need to take it easy with yourself. There's a degree of insanity coming in. So mental health is a necessity. Now there is a difference between mental health and mental illness. As I keep saying to people, I said, every one of us, we are having mental illness at one point or the other. A mental illness is an illness that affects the way people think, the way we feel, the way we believe or interact with others. Just as someone will feel unwell, may not have a serious illness. Take for instance now, you can have malaria. If you have malaria infection, some people might have fever. Some people will have to have, headache. Same thing, mental illness varies in degree. So many of us, once we see that we have issues with our thinking, with our behavior, then MI is setting in. We need to go for advice as much as possible. And also it's been documented that emotional mental illness is a particular concern, especially now with the era of COVID-19 issue. So we need to intentionally, as I said, make ourselves to be conscious of our mental health. Temporary insanity is claimed as a defense for every one of us. You must sometimes have some temporary insanity for you to be able to live in this 21st generation. Of course, the other speaker said many people are, they lose their job. There's family tension, in the office, at home. You can see someone will just trigger a gun and kill children, especially in this part of our country. You see someone go to a place and just slaughter people and all that. So there is a lot of insanity going on around us. So we need to be very careful and be conscious of this fact. Of course, poor mental health is associated with rapid social change, stressful work, gender discrimination, so many unhealthy lifestyle, just like the other speaker has spoken. So we need to be very careful on that. Don't forget other things, especially the little children, our students, our academia, all our young ladies. Many of them, they have a lot of issues with their sanity. So especially in this part of the world where you are told that as a female child, you shouldn't express yourself. There's no freedom of speech. A woman shouldn't talk, a female should not talk. That's one of the problems that brings about this insanity. So we've been advised from the earlier speaker that we should try and speak out. Now, this insanity also can either be psychological, cultural, or religious. So stress also has been, documented to cause a degree of insanity. So we need our support system, just like the person I've said. For the elderly, we need support system. For those of us that are feeling that we are on top of the game, we also need support system. Because at some point in your life, I can imagine that even in UK, while it has been documented that one of the father of mental health advocate, killed himself because he feels that life is not worth living. And I must tell you that this thing is very real. You must love yourself. The era of having birthday gifts for yourself, take yourself out, hang around with yourself. You must build a wall around yourself. You should have a sort of strong spirit for yourself. Another thing is that most of the time, we've seen that sanity is not something that you should joke with. Many of us, we are passing through this day by day. I will tell you something that yesterday I was with my doctor, and apparently I was summoned to go for counseling, to go and see a mental health advocate. And the question I asked myself is that, sir, am I fine? My doctor said, you have mental problem. And I sat down and looked inward, and actually it's just the truth. Because for me to leave office for 6 weeks and you ask me to rest, that I need to rest for medical reason and all that, it's part of insanity. So I told myself I have to make myself available for today to say one or two things about what I'm passing through. So mental health intervention at work is something that is crazy, especially in this part of the world. I don't know of in UK, in US, in Canada, or in the Western world, but I'm sure the stress that is involved is enormous. Same thing, violence prevention program. Just like the other speaker said, we need to look inward. We need to look inward especially in violence prevention. Many of us are violent in our spirits, though we are not physical about it, but we are violent and it's affecting our health, it's affecting our health. So we need to be very careful. Poverty is also a very serious thing that is bringing insanity. Poverty does not mean that you don't have money. Poverty could be when you are not satisfied with what you have, when you have a inferiority complex. So many things can make you poor. It's not about money. So these are some of the issues that are affecting our health. So in conclusion, we can all be sad or blue at a point in our lives. I want us to put that together in our memory, that at some point in our life, we are sad or blue at times in our life, whether we are sane or insane. But we all have seen movies about the madman and his crime spree with the underlying cause of mental illness. Sometimes we sometimes even make jokes about people being crazy or not, which I've said earlier. Even though we know that we shouldn't, because we are also insane. Sometimes we all had some exposure to mental illness. So I'll conclude on this note that sanity or insanity, mental health is a necessity. Let's live consciously and intentionally, holding our hands together in one love. We all need ourselves. You need me, I need you. And we should try as much as possible to speak out. When you speak out, you unburden. Let's speak out to health intervention providers. Let's speak out to our friends. Let's have common interest platform. Let's join common interest platform that can help our mental health. Let's seek for therapists, for psychiatrists, for psychologists, for social workers, for nurse practitioners, and for family physicians that can help manage mental illness treatment, such as therapy, counseling, or I will say on the final note that not to be okay. And this one said, I'm not okay. And okay, if you are not okay, that's okay. So mental health matters. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry, the internet has been bad in this part of the world, but we are trying. Hope you can put some of those questions into chats, and for some of our colleagues also that are on this platform to answer some questions you can raise. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okoyemi. That was a very, very insightful presentation from yourself. We're really sorry we couldn't go into it. These are topics that are very important, and to be honest, they require a lot of time to really break it down, but you've done a wonderful job summarizing that. We've had a question come through for you, so hopefully we can you can help to address that at the Q&A session. So moving on to our next speaker, who's been waiting patiently, the last speaker for today, but certainly not the least. Just before I introduce her, can you just type a 1 into the chat box if you're still here? If you're here, please type a 1 if you're still with us. We love engagement, so thank you very much, Bimba. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fatima. I can see it. Thank you. Please keep your 1s coming. As I just read a little bit about our next speaker, Joy Hurst. So Joy is a leader in the nonprofit sector. She is very passionate about lifelong learning. She has been providing healthcare needs for in a particular organization in Canada for several years now. So she also is currently the manager of patient relations for Covenant Health, which is a network of healthcare facilities in Alberta, Canada. She is also she's also a graduate social worker with specialization in planning, administration, and management. And she is also very passionate about solving problems, especially within the healthcare field. She is also a leader in a volunteer sector called Canadian Federation of University Women, which is a national organization where she serves as the vice president, and she holds a key roles in a number of international committees, and she's really, really passionate about lifelong learning and providing education, and again, providing healthcare, and we're really looking forward to hearing her take on this topic. So I hand over the floor now to Joy Hurst. So you're very welcome. Let's give her a virtual clap as she comes onto the platform. Can we please spotlight Joy Hurst? Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to spend some time with other women, particularly women of color. I don't always get to do that. And I've enjoyed the two presentations so far, have been very, very helpful. So bear with me as I try to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh,
Perfect.
wonderful. Thank you so much. I was very worried about this. So I'm not going to talk about anything new. Everything that I'm going to discuss this morning are things that I think we've all heard. The challenge is not only being hearers of the word, but also doers. So I invite each one of you, and I invite myself as well, to actually put into practice some of these things that we know. As already described, most of us live very complex lives with multiple and competing demands. We have friends, we have our work, we have studies, we have church, we have so many things. We have many, many different relationships. In my life, I'm married, I have 5 adult children, I have 5 grandchildren. The pandemic has meant that I live in a multi-generational household. I'm trying to balance my responsibilities at work, where I'm a manager. I'm balancing that with my volunteer work, both with the NGO, CFUW, my church. So many different things. Here's a picture of my daughter. I have one daughter. My son, who lives with us, who's a quiet man, said to me one day, Joy, Mom, you have 3 jobs and no time for yourself, just flat out. And I was taken back. And I realized that's true. And this is very, very unhealthy. And I don't believe I'm alone. I don't think I'm the only woman who is in the situation of many, many commitments and not taking enough time for ourselves. So what can we do about that? So I'd like to discuss some strategies to improve our health and wellness. And there's strategies that have already been mentioned by the previous 2 speakers. So forgive me for being repetitive, but I think it's good for us to hear the same thing sometimes, a number of times. So the first strategy is daily spiritual practice or reflection practice, and starting our days with reflective practice, not checking our email, not immediately jumping into our duties and the things that we need to do. And I don't know how you are, but I sometimes say, well, I'll do that afterwards. And then there's never any time. And by the end of the day, I haven't done that practice. And I notice my days are totally different if I start with that spiritual or reflective practice. Gratitude journaling. This is not only thinking about what we can be grateful for, but it's writing it down, even at those small things. And the research says that gratitude can help expand your social circle. It can improve your sleep. It can improve psychological health. and it can improve your physical health. So there's actual evidence that gratitude changes you inside, changes your mindset. And I think all of us, as we struggle to maintain good mental health, this is an easy strategy. This is something that we can train ourselves to do, is to think about what we're grateful for. Spending time outdoors. The research says, and this is a UK researcher, that 120 minutes outside a week is associated with good health and well-being. So it doesn't have to be all at once. It's 120 minutes over a 7-day period. And I think most of us can do that. I challenge us to conduct your own personal research and see if spending time outside does make a difference to your mental health. For those of us who are sitting, sitting is toxic. Sitting is the new smoking, and it actually can kill us. I would ask the good doctor to confirm that this is in fact true. We're at greater risk of death from all causes when we sit. So it's very important to move every 30 minutes. And you can move with, an exercise routine that you do at your desk. If you're not at that point, just stand up every hour, do something, but move. Do not sit hours and hours in front of the computer. And I'm speaking to myself because I'm guilty of spending many hours sitting and not moving. So I'm trying now to remind myself to get up, move, hydrate myself, have water, keep moving. Walk when you can walk instead of being in a car or sitting. Schedule time for play. I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised in a family where play was considered to be a waste of time. You must have something to do. Why are you wasting time? But in fact, play and recreation is extremely important for mental health. It reduces stress, it improves moods and emotional well-being, it stimulates the brain, it increases curiosity, creativity, and a love of learning. Dancing, as Buki, the first speaker, mentioned, improves our connection with others. We're more productive, actually, when we take time to play, and it's refreshing. I give you a few minutes to put into the chat box what your favorite play activity is. I won't be able to see it, but Mary, the moderator, can see it. If you could just take a few minutes and let's share with each other what our favorite play activity is. Madam Moderator, if you could read out what people are sharing.
Yeah, we've got badminton and shopping. That's from me.
Okay.
Gymnastics from Joseph, and walking from one of our speakers, Buki Yuka, and dance. Got soccer and dancing. Got dancing again. Lots of dance. Yeah. Basketball. Yeah. Walking.
All right.
Yeah. So quite a lot.
Good, good, good. So now let's move to strategies to boost your time and relationship effectiveness. All of us want to be more effective in how we use our time and also in our relationships. Effective time management means identifying and creating your high productivity zone. This is very important, to stop and take some time to evaluate yourself and how you function. How many hours can you work at a high level every day? What's the most productive time of your day? Each of us has a different body, different system, different rhythm. So it's really important to work with your own rhythm and not against your rhythm. How many weeks can you work at a high intensity without a break? And that implies it's weeks, just by the question. And how long of a break do you need so that you can come back focused and intense? Now, it may not be weeks, maybe it's days. We each have to identify what's best for us. But creating those high productivity zones is very important. Taking regular breaks is also another important tool in effective time management. One of the things that might encourage us to take breaks is to actually set aside activities for break time. So that means we're not distracted during our work, and also that we have something to look forward to when we are taking a break. I found this one really interesting. Stop trying to multitask. The American Psychological Association research has shown that multitasking, especially complex tasks, hampers productivity. And so many of us spend our days and our work time multitasking. We're on a Zoom meeting, or we don't have the camera on, we're actually doing work for our next meeting. So all of that kind of work actually hampers our productivity. So I would encourage us all to break the habit of multitasking. Plan and organize tasks according to their priority status. Now this is, this is a given. And so it might seem like, why would I include that? Yes, it is a given, but one of the things that opportunities for most of us is to do better in planning and organizing our tasks. So optimizing the use of electronic tools. I know certainly for myself, I use a lot of tools. I have apps, but I don't know how to use all of the features. And often there are features that will certainly help us in our time management, but there's a barrier, and it may be generational. It might be somebody of my age. It's a barrier that of using technology, and technology supports to better manage our time. Consider a time management tool such as To-Do List. And there are many tools out there. You just have to find one that works for you. But again, this takes some time to set aside some time to actually do these things for yourself. It will improve your mental health and your effectiveness. Now, I've just discovered this particular tool. It's called Kanban. It's a Japanese technique to organize your workflow. It's very simple, and so I think it's wonderful. You have a board, you can have it a physical board, you can have electronic, and you can go online, and there's many systems. But essentially, it's a pull system rather than a push system. You put all of your to-do activities, you list them, you prioritize them, and then you make a decision. What is it I'm going to do? And how are you going to organize the things that you're going to do right now? And what I love about this system, it includes, what have you also achieved? Sometimes we're pushing ourselves and we're not keeping in mind, I've already achieved all of these things. These things are done. So I think this is an excellent tool to use professionally and also personally. So I would encourage you to explore it. The last few minutes, I want to talk about our relationships and how to be more effective in our relationships. I heard the last speaker talk about being intentional. And our relationships, healthy relationships, we need to be intentional and plan for our relationships. They need to be a priority. And in order to be a priority, again, we have to spend some time in evaluating our relationships with those people who are most important in our lives. So I've extracted questions from Dirk Zeller, Successful Time Management for Dummies. And I'd like to highlight 4 of those questions. how can you invest time with this person, whoever the person is that's very important to you, to create a better relationship? What's most important to this loved one, or several of the people that are important to you, and how can you, or how can I, service and support those needs? So again, this is being intentional about our relationships and intentional about creating positive relationships. How can we show that we value this person in a way that is meaningful to him or her? I have a friend in the States, Judy, who is a chief executive officer in an organization, very, very busy, but she takes time to send me handwritten notes. And I can tell that really means a lot to her. So we're all different in terms of what is meaningful to us. And so taking that time, being deliberate about interacting with those that are important in our lives in a way that's meaningful to them. In our families, what can we do to create a positive family memory? So as we go about our responsibilities at home and organizing our home and doing all the things that we do in our home, let's stop for a moment and think about how can we create a positive family memory from what we're doing and how we interact. And it might just take a simple shift to make that difference. So I would challenge each one of us to commit to taking one positive step to improve our relationships. Thank you so much for your time and participation this morning, and for inviting me to be on this panel.
Thank you so very much, Joy Hurst. That was a wonderful presentation. What you said about sitting, I'd also heard about it a while back. It's good to hear that it's actually true. So I'm definitely taken away from this that I should move more and reduce screen time. I generally, I think it's screen time for me for my laptop as opposed to my phone. So I'm okay with the phone, but just need to reduce it with the laptop. So thank you so very much for that. That was wonderful. We will, okay. So before we move on, like I said, we've had some questions, and some people might have some things to say already that they want to, some questions they want to share. So we'll just take one or two questions, firstly from, the floor. So the floor is open. Does anyone have any questions so far for any of our speakers based on the three topics that they've spoken about? I'll remind us again. So our first speaker, Bukiyuka, she spoke about the possible risk factors associated with mental health. Our second speaker, Dr. Opeyemi Adesina, she spoke about sane or insane mental health is a necessity. And our speaker just now, Joy Hurst, has given us strategies for maintaining good mental health, and also how we can sustain personal effectiveness at home, at work, etc. So do we have any questions for any of our three speakers? The floor is open. If you do have a question, please just raise your hand, and I'll unmute you and you can ask your question. Okay. Yes, go ahead, Joy.
So I see there's a question about how to manage how to balance when you have multiple tasks and you have deadlines. I would really encourage you to use a system like the Kanban system. So you break it down into smaller bits and figure out what you need to do every day in terms of a small piece to achieve your final deliverable. So, and that makes it much less overwhelming because it is broken down, and you can figure out, okay, what do I need to do on each of those tasks every day? What needs to be done so I can achieve my deliverable at the end?
Thank you very much. If it's okay, Joy, if you can send a link to the Kaban or the Kaban principle. So if you're able to share a link in our chat boxes for those who are interested to explore it later. Thank you very much for taking that question. We have a question from Bimbo, but I'll come to you at the end, Bimbo. We just want to move on to one of our testimonials really quickly. So if you just keep a hold of that question, Bimbo, I'll come to you at the end. Thank you very much. So we are moving on to our next session now, which is again to hear some testimonials, individuals sharing their experiences on mental health related issues. So our first speaker, it will be Dr. Aderonke. I can't pronounce that. I think it's Shakwere. I'm not sure, but apologies, Dr. Aderonke. But yes, she will be giving us some experience, some individual experience on mental health. So over to you.
Yeah, so I will only accept your apology if it comes with some money.
Can I give you virtual money?
All right, so thank you, Mary, and thank you, Dr. Grace Oluwadebi, for having me to talk. Yeah, so this is actually an interesting topic. Just like the speakers, I think one of the speakers said earlier on that this is a topic that maybe many people don't talk about. And the second speaker said at one point or the other, we might have displayed a bit of insanity, perhaps even today. And then the last speaker also told us about the importance of relationships, you know, with helping us with this. So I will just go quick to sharing my own experience, the vivid one, the one that was clear to me, because at least we've been told that we exhibited insanity at one point or the other. So I'm going to share the one that was really at least obvious that I was aware of. So it was actually during my PhD program. So I'm a Nigerian. My name is Ronke, like Mary said. But I traveled to South Africa for my PhD. And that was the first time I was leaving my country. And I was leaving maybe my extended family, even though I went with my nuclear family. But that was the first time I was leaving, you know, all the support. When you are in Nigeria, you know, it's like, even though you are in a family, you belong to a village, everybody owns you, in quotes. So getting to South Africa, everything was going on fine the first year. Then the second year, things were not really going on fine. I remember precisely my second year. In the first year, I started my experiments. I was able to get some preliminary result. Of course, I needed to still do more so that I can improve the results I got earlier on. So it was in my second year that I started observing that I was losing interest, you know, in the whole program. Even though I was still working, I was still going to lab, but I discovered towards the middle of second year, I was losing interest gradually, especially getting to the end. And in my third year, I think that was when it became obvious. It became obvious even to my supervisor. And she had to write to the university that I've not been productive for 1.5 years. And, you know, we all know what that means, right? That implies that maybe I'll be placed on probation, because by the end of the third year, I was meant to be rounding up, you know. So to cut the long story short, it was a bit serious. It was a bit serious that I just told my supervisor I was not doing again. But to trace it back to maybe what actually led to that, I remember that I had series of rejection. I was not, yeah, even though everything has not been rosy before traveling, but you know, those rejections were quite back to back. You know, I was working on a paper, the first time rejected, the second time rejected. Then I was also applying for funding. Everything was like rejection, both funding, the experiment. Even though I got result now, they were still rejecting the paper. So it's as good as maybe my result is not valid. So at the same time, I was beginning to lose confidence in myself. So how was I able to go out of the whole situation? So the first thing, I said I was not doing it again. I was damn serious about it, or I was serious about it at least. So with the intervention, I was just advised by my family, friends, I was advised that maybe I should take a break. So I took a break. So for a whole session, so I said I was taking a break. Then I traveled down. I was in South Africa, then I traveled down to Nigeria for like 3 months, changed my environment. Then I was still on break. So I changed my environment for like 3 months, thereabout. Then I also sought medical help. I sought medical help. I was on medical help for like maybe 1.5 or 2 years. Doctors were attending to me regularly. I was placed on drugs and all of that. Then also because at that time too, my faith in God was beginning to shake. But thank God for people around me were able to strengthen me with scriptures, with prayers, and I gradually began to pick up. Then also after the 3 months plus, I traveled back to South Africa. Even when I got back to South Africa, I didn't resume back to school. I didn't resume back to school immediately. Then through the help of a friend. So how was I able to resume back to school? So through the help of a friend who was in the same department and on the same program, she took it upon herself that every week I have to present to her, even though I have to give my supervisor a feedback, but she made it a point of duty on her home part that every week we must meet. So even before I meet with my supervisor, I meet with her. And even before our meeting, she sends, like, we communicate with respect to what I'm doing, but that meeting is just to, give the weekly report. And then through our help, I was able to get back, checking upon me, my work, and I think that's all. And even after I became better, I was still meeting regularly with my doctor, and then the session I had with my doctor was helpful. And then my friend that helped me to get back to, she's also a good Christian, and regularly too, she was able to share scripture with me. And of course, I had the support of my family and friends. So I think that's all from my hand. That should be 3 minutes now.
Thank you very much for that. That's really wonderful to hear. I think in short, it just makes us to know that there's no, you can't go so low that it's too late. That there is help available. The first thing is, just asking for that help. And I think one thing I can see from there is also it's very important to be surrounded by people that love and care about you. And so I do hope that, we take something away from that. So thank you very much, Dr. Aderonke. Thank you very much for that. So our next testimonial will be from Mrs. Tolu Adetutu. So I'm just going to give her the floor now. If you're there, Mrs. Tolu Adetutu, just 4 minutes, please, so that we can have some time for our question and answers. So Tolu Adetutu, over to you, Mrs. Tolu Adetutu, over to you, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, or good morning. I have a similar experience with Dr. Ronke, who just spoke. So I will try to be as brief as possible. Can we hear me?
Yes, we can,
okay.
And we can see you.
Okay, yeah. So, well, for the good part of 2019, 2020, I was depressed, and it started by I noticed I was losing interest also in a lot of things I was doing. It started with a hobby and a small business I was running at home. I used to make clothes, and it became a struggle for me. I couldn't just continue or cope with it. So I needed to put it on hold and just stop because I was struggling. And I realized I just didn't see value in anything. I felt, okay, it's what's so special about life. You start to ask yourself such questions. Is it worth it? What is the whole essence of life? So I wasn't seeing value in everything, in anything. I wake up in the morning and I feel like, okay, it's a new day. So what? There was nothing to look forward to. and I felt really worthless. And at some point, I also had suicidal thoughts. And yeah, so I believe people who had gone through it can relate with what I passed through, but I will not dwell on the symptoms. But the first thing I will say is to really identify what was the cause, as in what led. That was my first what led me to that point. And I realized that then I had a lot of unmet expectations. You know, what I have in my head was different from reality, from what I was facing. And being also in a country, I stay in the Netherlands, and I was at home then. I wasn't doing anything. I was well, still at home now, but staying with the kids. So I really had no adult interaction, you get. So my life was just the same the whole day, no challenge, nothing new. I was kind of isolated, lonely, and yeah, so that was it. And being in a foreign country was also difficult. You know, at that point I was thinking, okay, what am I doing here? Sometimes I just wish I just wanted to run away, you get, and hide. But yeah, if I had had opportunity like the first speaker I had, she was able to travel back home to Nigeria. I really wanted that then. There were several days I would just, you know, crying was the thing for me at that moment. I easily cried. I was crying a lot at that time. And so the first was I identified the cause. I was isolated and I had to look for ways to get interaction with the outside world, because I also lost, like the other speakers mentioned, I also lost my confidence. My self-esteem was very, very low at that point. So I had to look for ways to interact with other people. So, and I think some of these points were already mentioned, some of the things I did. I had to join groups with people who shared interest with me. I looked for, groups. I started with that. And then, I worked on my mind, actually. Like the Bible says, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I had to find ways to make my mind creative or busy. So I had to fill my mind with good things and positive things. So I started reading. I started reading books. So I had other things to think of than dwelling on my situation and whatever it was I was facing at that time. So also working on the mind is something very important. So I had to work on that. And I had to work on my self-confidence. I had to work on my confidence. I had to work on my esteem, on my self-esteem. And I needed to take care of myself. I needed to give myself attention also. So that's some of the things we women do when we become mothers and wives, we kind of neglect ourselves. So, and that was what happened to me. I had, you have dreams and you have goals you put at the back seat, which also does not help you mentally. So at that time, I made up my mind. I had to make myself as well a priority and take care of myself. If I don't do it, nobody will do it for me. So I had to do that. And I also picked up a new hobby, something to look forward to. I had to learn something new. I had to look for pick up a new hobby. And well, the fact was that I battled this alone, and not alone, but with God, because they also mentioned, you need to take care of your spiritual relationship. That is also important. And at that time, I really appreciated that my relationship with God. I thought, you hear a lot of people committed suicide. It's not just, if I had not known God, I guess I would have gone that path, but I'm so grateful. So at that point, my relationship with God really got stronger, and I could just only hold on to him because I felt I was not financially buoyant to seek the help of a therapist or to go for, for any medical treatment. So it was just me and my husband, And he also didn't encourage me to use medicine. He told me, just hold on, hang on, and it will get better. So that was what I did. I really trusted God, and he pulled me through. So yeah, so if you also have the opportunity to change environment, like Dr. Runke said, it could also help you. And one other thing I did was, I think I've mentioned, was to take charge of my life and stop being a victim of my circumstance. You know, I thought, yeah, I cannot change situation, but I can change myself. I can change the way I see things. So I thought, yeah, I need to take charge of my life and do what I want for myself. So it was kind of more of an eye opener for me to see that, okay, you can do better than you are doing. So it was a time for me to really reflect on my life as a person. So yeah, I think I've taken so much time already.
No, it's fine. I thank you so much. I'm just gonna give you a virtual clap.
I think somebody is asking a question here.
Yeah. So let's just, do you want to take that question since it's related? So they've asked.
What did I take as a hobby?
Yeah.
Well, I started crocheting.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you so. Oh, go ahead, Joy.
Just thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, seriously, thank you. Thank you for being transparent, especially as a Nigerian. Africans, we don't really talk about these things. We don't really, we just push it under the carpet, but these things are real. Like the Bible said, that we are in this world and we will face tribulations, and it's going to affect us. It might push you to the stage where you starting to question life, but the fact of the matter is we've been promised that they will not overcome us. So thank you for sharing that in actual practical terms. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate that. So we are going to move on now to our question and answer session, which will wrap up the event. So I'm going to start in the order that we received questions. So the first question we asked, by the way, this is for all our panelists and whoever else wants to contribute. So the first question we had was actually from Mrs. Toluade Tutu, who's just given a testimonial. And she asked, how do you help kids deal with their mental health issues, especially when they cannot really express what they are feeling? So that's the first question. So yeah, so that's the question. How do you help kids deal with their mental health issues, especially when they cannot really express what they are feeling? So Joy Hurst, do you want to go first? You're muted.
You know what? I think I will defer to Buki, who is a mental health therapist.
Okay.
Wonderful, yes.
If you have children, there will be some signs and symptoms that you would notice that is not the norm for them. And the best way to deal with this is to seek help. And now this depends on whereabouts one is. For us in the UK, we have children lines, we have children help, we have what we call children and adolescents mental health. And there are specialists there that will, you can take your children to the local doctor, which is the GP, and they will refer you to those who deal with children. And in absence of that, if we do not have doctors or specialists around, there are also maybe mental health practitioners that we might know who would be able to put us through. And we also thank God for the internet now. There's a lot of things on the internet that can help us, you know, the basic things that we need to do. And there are different treatments for different mental health issues. So we can treat people with medication, but we've also got other things which are like, we call them alternative therapies, which include things like talking therapies, which include things like Christianity or religious methods in which we have people who can be prayed for, who can, you know, like reach out to men and women of God who can speak to them, who can, you know, take them through a process of counseling, take them through a process of prayers if that's what they need. And You know, there's always a way out. There's always a solution to every problem. We shouldn't be alone, and we should find like-minded people who've gone through things and they can help us along the way. That's my contribution.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask Mrs. Tolu Adetutu, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, Buki. So our next question is from Tolu Wani. But before that, I'll go to Bimbo, who's had a hand raised. So she has a contribution to share. So Bimbo, if you can unmute yourself and share it, please. Is Bimbo there? Okay, we'll move on to the next question.
Hello?
Hello? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, all the guest speakers. And I can say I've really been blessed by the lectures so far. And just a bit of contribution to what Dr. Bayemi said about sanity and insanity. Everyone goes through it. I think she's right in that regard, because at some point in our life, we all face it, whether we like it or not. And the other day I was discussing with Dr. Grace that most of us, especially when we are in our 40s and above, we go through midlife crisis. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or non-Christian, everyone goes through it because we face a different level of challenges in life. And I think with what we've had so far, understanding the concept and the impact of mental health will really help us to help each other, to show concerns, and to give to support people going or living through mental health. And sometimes the approach of friends and family with people going through mental health crisis really matters a lot, because sometimes it could lead to recovery, sometimes it could even worsen the situation. Because if somebody doesn't understand how to counsel someone going through mental health crisis, it will actually worsen the situation. It's better to even keep quiet, because that is the reason why some people withdraw from their friends and family, and sometimes it could lead to outburst of anger as a coping mechanism. And I think the most important thing is for all of us to understand how to manage mental health and how to counsel people. When people go through depression and they tell us what they are going through, and we think we don't have enough knowledge to support them, it's better to even keep quiet, because the after effect of not being able to manage the situation can be very catastrophic. And I think at this point, that is the essence of having this forum, to understand how to manage mental health crisis. Because at this point in time, the whole world is going through so many things. That's why I actually appreciate Dr. Payemi's lecture, because everyone is very tense at the moment. And with understanding, patience, compassion, we can actually help people to relieve their symptoms and reduce discriminations, because sometimes people feel discriminated against because of the way their friends spoke to them when they approached them for help and all that. So I believe creating more awareness and getting more help, whether you are going through mental health crisis or not, getting more information about mental health can help us a lot. So that's my contribution. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so very much, Bimbo. I just wanted to add to that. I think, like you said, you know, just because people look okay, you don't
it doesn't matter.
see what's in their brains. You don't know what they're going through. And it could
That's
just be
right.
one word that can trigger somebody.
That can trigger,
So you
yeah,
have to be
and that's
very
it.
careful what you say. You know,
Yeah.
they normally say, you know, mind your business. If you know somebody and you're coming from a place of love, that's different if you have a relationship with them. But we have to be very, very careful how we speak and how we, you know, treat others. So thank you very much for that. I'm moving in order. So Tolulope, you've got your hand up, but there was a question before that. So Toluwani has asked a question, and she has said that as a teenager and as a student, we really face a lot of mental health issues. How do we control or alter it at a young age? So I think another way to put the question is, you know, as a student, as a teenager, with the pressures of life and studying and grades and, you know, wanting to succeed, hearing it from a young age, you have to succeed, or you have to do better than your brothers, you have to do better than your parents, or whatever, things like that. How do we manage or use that kind of pressure in a way that won't hamper our mental health? So I hope I've put it in the right way. So yes, can somebody please help Toluwani with her question? Open floor.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe as a teenager, as a young person, is the best thing is to open up first to a trusted adult. To let them know, maybe your parents, because let them know what you're facing, what you're passing through, and what could be the likely cause. Probably they could help you, or I believe that should be the first step. And don't try to carry everything by yourself.
That's really good. Thank you. And if I can add, I think making sure that you've got, you connect with friends. Loneliness is a big issue among teenagers, that, you know, they've got the gadgets, but a lot of them don't have that connection. They don't have friends. So, you know, try to reach out to somebody, reach out to a friend. Does anybody else want to contribute to that, to Luani's question about managing mental health as a student? You know, try not to let the pressures of being a student get to you, or kind of, you know, hamper your mental health. So I would like one of our panelists to tackle that question, please. If you've had experiences dealing with young children who've maybe opened up about a mental health issue, or you've noticed, it would be really good to hear from one of our panelists.
Okay, I sometimes I work on we call them younger people's ward, with young children who can range from the age of 7, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one thing is recognizing the signs and the symptoms, but then they also need to come out. Maybe they're going through, most of the ones that we look after have issues. Maybe in the past they've had traumas, they've been raped, they've been beaten up at home. So it's not, going to the parents was not an option, but there's also other people involved in their lives, which include like school teachers who see some symptoms, who see some signs, and they refer them on to social workers, and then, you know, they get referred to the mental health services that is in the UK. So if it's in another part of the country, in another part of the world, we still have leaders, but then there are some leaders that are abusers themselves. You know, so you can't go to your parents, you can't go to the leaders of the organizations you believe, because maybe you're being abused by them and you're not being heard. So that's when they need outside help. So that's when they need to contact, if they have means, maybe through their friends or someone who they can trust, who can speak out on their behalf or can lead them and connect them to other places.
Wow. Thank you very, very much for that. Really appreciate it. So I hope, Toluwani, if you're there, I hope that answered your questions. I just want to move quickly to Tolulope, who's had a hand up, and then after that, I'll come to you, Joy. If you can unmute yourself, Tolulope.
Thank you so much for putting this meeting together, Dr. Oluwadebi and everyone. It seems there are many to lose on this at this meeting. I am Tolulope Oyeni, and I'm connecting from the UK. My initial question before Buki spoke up now, tried to answer Toluwanimi. I will ask that question first, and then I will ask a question following what Buki just said. So my initial question is this. I've read so many books talking about mental health, getting through tough times. If you've done a PhD, you have every reason to have gone through, that the whole cascade, the whole chain reaction of mental health issues. So I've had to reach out, reading books and then helping people around me. And I learned, I'm a scientist, not a psychologist, but I've been able to get some materials online from computer-based therapy, CBT, or what do you call it? So I saw so many instances where they keep saying, this statement is being repeated. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. And many a times when someone comes to us as friends, somebody reaching out to, the attack team, like I have a problem, and say, stop crying. As Africans, that's the first line we play, stop crying. And one thing I discovered about crying is, what I read, I don't cry. That's by nature. And I had to make myself, if there is a need to cry, Tolu, why don't you just cry? It will give you some relief. I know that there are enkephalins and endorphins in tears. And these chemicals is like an homeostatic process. It brings down the tension. It's your body's way of coping with crisis. So it's okay to cry, but where do we draw the line between enough cry and good cry? That is my question. And as Christians, I know most of us on this platform, we are Christians. And we always say you are strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Jesus wept. So I've said that, I'm biased now asking that question. Now, my question two is peculiar to the UK environment, because I have not lived elsewhere in the diaspora. Buki, in the UK here, when children have issues, most of the time, I've had instances where I had to talk to parents, talk to the child, and they need to see a mental health specialist. But the climate here always dumps the luggage, the baggage, the blame on the parents, even when homes are functioning properly. Sometimes these children, the cause of their mental health is discrimination at school, discrimination anywhere amongst friends, even within your street where you live. And then you want to refer a child. Unfortunately, not many Black people are mental health specialists in the UK. So in counseling the child or trying to find out, they always put the blame on the parent. There was an Ethiopian lady that had to run from where I live, run to another part of the UK because she tried to reach out for mental health counseling, but they ended up turning the child, very young child, about 7-year-old girl, against her single mom. To the extent that the girl started saying, I hate you, mom. You caused these problems. If you were not working, if you were not dropping me off at 8 a.m. in the morning for breakfast club, nobody would have molested me. Stuff like that. So as parents, peculiarity, diaspora people, how do we refer young people for mental health therapy, assistance, help before it gets too late? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
And just to add, I think also you especially want to know without kind of jeopardizing, the family structure where, you can get the help without it having consequences, maybe them taking the child away from you or things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, Buki, again, I think that's for you.
Okay, I'll try my best. From what you've spoken, I'll go from the second question. Taking that child or that mother running away is not actually the solution to the problem. I know we don't want to refer our children to go for therapy or to go in for help, but running away from the situation is not going to solve the problem. And when a child has gone through that trauma, there has to be, you know, a cure to that trauma, and it depends on how open that child is to what they're going through. She's spoken out about it. Someone always is going to receive the blame. It might be the mother that she's blaming, but that's her coping strategy at the moment. But eventually, when she does get healed of what she's going through, she will come back and, you know, like, respect the mom and thank the mom. So running away is not the solution. And, you know, the referral still has to be to those who have the knowledge. But like you said, we're Christians. I have two ways of dealing with situations like that. So we've got the treatments that we've got where we would go on, take medication, go through that. But then as Christians as well, we don't forget our God factor, because like I work in a place where I work with hardened criminals who've actually got mental issues, but as a result of their mental issues, they've, you know, like I work with the rapists, the pedophiles, and all those type of hardened criminals who we term to be those people we don't want even near our children. But then we also need to get those people who've been affected, who are the victims of these things, who have mental issues as a result of being victims of these people. They also need the help. And we can either help with the normal treatment, or we can go down the prayer line where, you know, you can take them for deliverance. And, you know, through the prayers and through things, they can also be healed in that way. If that's what our beliefs are, if that's where our faith lies, we can also use our faith when it comes to things like that. But at the same time, medication is not also eliminated completely. It's just the same like we have a headache. We can have paracetamol or brufen for our headaches, but then at the same time, sometimes we can receive prayer for our headaches and it can go. Do I answer your question?
Tony?
Thank you, Buki. And if I could add to that, in Canada, we have many mental health resources, but as always, it may take some time to find the right resource. It's not necessarily the first counselor you go to is going to be a good fit. So it may take some time to actually find someone who is a good fit for that child or for yourself. The other thing I think with children, unless they're in an acute psychiatric state, some of the same things that we talk about improving mental health for adults work for children, work for adolescents. So being outside, getting away from the computer, getting outside of their room, a positive relationship with someone, doesn't matter who it is, but increasing more time where there is a positive relationship. Recreational activities. And sometimes you may have to force a young person or bribe them into getting out of their room and going and doing something else. So that breaks that train of thought that Tulu was talking about, mentally getting them in a different headspace. And recreational activity does that. It's hard to be totally absorbed in your depression if you are actively engaged in some kind of activity. So I think those things are important, not only for adults, but also for young people.
Okay.
Thank you so very much for your contribution, Joy. Did I hear somebody say something?
Yeah. I would just like to add something to the first question. Her first question.
Yes, about crying.
Crying, but I will also leave after I give the answer because I need to attend also to something else. So yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll be rounding up soon.
Okay, so I will just say it's okay to cry. I think there is nothing as when you have to cry or when you need to stop. If you feel it, you just let it come out because, well, for me, I am a good crier. So I cried a lot, and I just let it. When I felt the heaviness, I just allowed myself. And you feel the relief after it. Even in the place of prayer, I cried a lot. And sometimes we just want to put on that brave face and feel like we are strong. But I learned, when I was going through this as a Christian, I read a lot the book of Psalms, because somehow I related to the psalmist went through sometimes hard times, and you could see him questioning God and asking, a lot of questions. And yeah, I learned it's good to just say it the way it is. And I said it. There are times I just tell him, I'm tired, I cannot go on anymore. I'm fed up, I just need your help. So sometimes we don't have to hide it, just cry and let it come out, yes. And when you don't need to cry, you don't have to cry anymore. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your contribution, Tolu. It's been wonderful having you on here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So
Yeah, thank you.
See you again on another program. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
I have a bye. I have a contribution from Dr. Opeyemi, who wants to do a contribution on that answer very quickly, and then we'll take one more question after that, and then we'll round up. Dr. Opeyemi.
Oh yeah, thank you, Mary. I still want to talk about crying. I was telling someone beside me here that that's my food. I love to cry a lot. That's my hobby. And it's so sweet to cry. You know why? Jesus cried. When he was talking about Lazarus, he cried because of his friend. Because Lazarus died, so he cried. So who are you? In my tradition, they said men don't cry. Who told you that? They cry secretly. The big boys cry. And suicide is part of crying, because their cry is not heard. So they tend to commit suicide. So if Jesus cried, then you have no reason for not crying. We were not told he cried secretly. He cried, seeing Lazarus. And Lazarus, his friend, died. Your emotion is your friend. Your feelings, what you're passing through, could be that friend. So why don't you just cry it out? Crying could be physical, it could be emotion. Crying out, crying physically, they're all same thing. It's medicinal. So please, let's go back and tell our young adults, the men, wherever we are, that crying is part of medicine. So we should try to cry as much as possible. I still cried a few days ago because I lost my loved one. I've lost children, not a child. Children, big boys. I've lost so many things in my health. I told you I've been home for almost how many weeks now, but I had to come out this afternoon.
Thank you.
And this is part of the crying. I just want someone to hear me. But everybody see me as a super mama. They call me stone cold. They call me the mother of all. But you may not see my cry, but I cry. I still cried yesterday in the hospital. But I'm a very strong woman, but my strength will fail. So you need to cry to unbottle. So please, let's start crying. It's so interesting. By the time you start crying, you see yourself laughing. Just try it in your free space. By the time you cry 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you have no strength again in you. So at the end of the day, sometimes I start singing. And it's crazy. But it's just like you're dancing, So please, let's go ahead and cry. So we're going to launch something called Crying Day. It's so interesting for people who are going through mental challenges. And God will help us, and we hear our cry as we cry to him in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that vulnerability. Sorry, if we can just spare 1 minute. I have a very important question from someone. They said, please don't mention my name. I think we need to address this. They asked, what are the signs of mental health? So if, again, Buki, you can please answer that. Someone wants to know what are the signs of mental health. Perhaps they just want to check that they're okay. So what are the signs of mental health that, maybe once you start seeing the signs, you should start to take steps to do something about it. Thank you. And that would be our final question before we round up. If you could just do it in 1 minute or so, thank you.
Okay, signs of mental health. You mean mental illness, the different mental illness, so different symptoms for different illnesses. But I always say that we all are born with a bit of every of these mental illnesses within us. For example, you know, like depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all these things. But when we see that it's tipping over more than normal, those are the signs that we are mentally ill. Does that answer the question?
Yes, if you can elaborate a little bit, more than normal, what does that mean?
So, for example, for those who've gone through depression, you just find yourself dipping in mood every day. You're going down and down into that dark hole, then that is signs that you need help. You know, we can be low in mood and then come out the next day, we're rejoicing and we're happy and all that. So that's for depression. For anxiety, like, for example, during the COVID, when we were on lockdown, you know, it can be so frightening when you see a lot of people dying around you that you become so anxious to even leave your own house. And, you know, that's when you need to start doing something. What are the things that you can do to help yourself so that you don't become so anxious that you're not able to leave your house? Like someone like me, I just stopped listening to the news. I stopped listening to things that were, you know, like affecting me personally. You know, like I needed to go out to work. I'm a nurse, so I had to go out to work and I had to go out and do things. So it's like cutting off from those things that are contributing to making us unwell.
Thank you very much. Bimbo has a hand up. 30 seconds, Bimbo. 30 seconds. And that is it. Final. And we have some more things listed in the chat box. 30 seconds, please.
Okay. From my point of view, when people start withdrawing from their friends, is a sign of mental health illness. Because you don't want to talk to people, you just want to be on your own. You don't want anybody to answer you or anything. So it could be a sign of mental health illness. Okay. People that you normally talk to, you don't want to talk to them anymore. So that's it.
Thank you very much. And I think for a child, this can include your parents or your siblings where you're just withdrawn. That's a big sign. Okay, we've come to the end of the program. I've learned so much. Thank you all so very much for making it interactive and engaging. The questions were fantastic. Our panelists, you've done fantastically well. A round of applause for all our panelists. Please give them a virtual round of applause, celebrate them. Thank you so much, Buki, for what you shared with us. Thank you, Dr. Opeyemi. Thank you also, Joy Hurst. And of course, a big thank you and God bless you to the pioneer and the visionary of this program, Dr. Grace Oluwadebi. So God bless you all. I'm gonna just hand over to Dr. Grace for some concluding remarks as we round up. Thank you all very much. Thank you for listening to me as well.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Wow. This is so amazing. It's an awesome program. Can you hear me, please?
We can hear you.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, you know, we've taken out some time, so I don't even have much to say again. Our moderator really said and covered it up, but I just want to say thank you once again to our speakers, to my friends who volunteered to speak about their personal experience. Like Mary said, it's not what is common. Most people doesn't want to talk about these issues they are going through. So, and we can see that these their personal experience has really added flavor to the meeting today. I want to thank all participants. You know, some people have left because of other programs they're having, but for everyone that turned up, I want to say thank you. Personally, I've learned a lot. My jota is full, but I don't want to be going over and over it again. We're going to have the videos sent and to some people that may want it personally, you can let me know. I'll send you by mail or WhatsApp, but it's going to be there on our website also for you to access this video later on. So I want to say just to say thank you. You know, we've learned a lot of things. We need to be intentional in our relationship. We need to take a daily reflection, which is very important, not just starting with a mobile phone. Even sometimes what you see on your mobile phone can just crash the day for you. But take a reflection, thank God, and the act of being grateful. You know, Joy mentioned about gratitude, journaling. What you are thinking you don't have, somebody is still even praying or maybe desiring. Let me use the word, let me just have that thing you are having. So thank God for that, or thank whatever. Believe, have a belief system. It's very, very important. Believe in something. Otherwise, you know, the whole world, it's uncertain. It's full of pain, frustrations, but the way we handle it matters a lot. So I personally have learned a lot. I learned about Kanban board. You know, you don't need to put all the tasks on yourself at once. Break them into shorter tasks, and you know, before you know, you'll be able to do all these things. So I want to say thank you to everyone once again, and I wish you all happy weekend. So thank you for connecting, and remember, thank you.